Hi, everyone. I am thrilled to welcome you on behalf of the Helmsley Charitable Trust to this event today. Today is World Oceans Day, and we are here in Honolulu, Hawaii, to make an exciting announcement and to have a great conversation about the implications of plastic pollution in the ocean. I'm Michelle Tsai, here from Helmsley's headquarters in New York, and I'll be moderating our discussion today with our panel of esteemed experts from the field of marine debris removal. But first, I would like to introduce Walter Panzier, trustee of Helmsley Charitable Trust. Helmsley is one of the largest private philanthropies involved in global grant making, and Walter oversees Helmsley's investments in rural healthcare in the U.S., as well as select high-impact work across sub-Saharan Africa. Walter is committed to helping people live better lives today, no matter where they call home. Before being appointed as a trustee more than 15 years ago, Walter served as a first responder in California and South Dakota. In those roles, he witnessed the significant disparities in the kind of health care that is provided available close to home. As a trustee, Walter is dedicated to eliminating those disparities. He has a deep interest in supporting innovative programs and technologies that help build resilience in communities. These have ranged from novel healthcare solutions for rural Americans to the subject of our discussion today, removing plastic pollution from the world's oceans, and so much in between. Walter's curiosity, coupled with a get-it-done acumen, means that he's always looking for leapfrog opportunities that we can implement to help improve and save lives. And now I'll hand it over to you, Walter.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. Good day, everybody. Like Michelle said, I'm Walter Panzier. I'm a trustee with the Helmsley Charitable Trust. And I am so excited to be in Honolulu today on World Ocean Day. The Helmsley Charitable Trust is deeply committed at solving very tough problems with very ingenious ideas. To date, the Trust has spent over $4.5 billion improving people's lives of wherever they call home. Now, today, I want to talk a little bit about ocean plastic debris. In Hawaii, where we are located right now, it is really beautiful, but they still have problems. They have plastic debris coming up onto their shores. A lot of this is single-use plastic. A lot of it is also fishing nets and other sorts of debris. So together, we all have to work to help eliminate plastic products and the problem of it washing on our shores and destroying our environment. So between Hawaii and California, there's a large patch of the ocean that contains some of the largest amounts of garbage in the world. That is called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It is twice the size of Texas. So just think about that for a minute. This place in the middle of the ocean between California and Hawaii contains so much plastic waste. That's 2 Texases size of plastic waste. So it's a huge problem. And Helmsley Charitable Trust is a committed organization to health. But we recognize the problems that plastic pollution brings to the environment and brings problems to human health and animal health. And here at the Helmsley Charitable Trust, we are committed to improve the state of our environment and to improve health. And by doing that, we improve the world, because this is totally a global problem. So I am so excited today to announce a $15 million grant to the ocean cleanup. What this grant will do, it will send ships from the ocean cleanup into the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and with innovative ways, they will hopefully collect 15 million pounds of garbage out of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. That is roughly only maybe 1% of the problem. So there is a lot of work to do, and a lot of people need to get involved, and a lot of organizations and governments need to step on board. But I hope that Helmsley's commitment to the ocean cleanup, more individuals will come on board and more organizations. So in the spirit of World Ocean Day, I encourage others to join us. Now, I would love to introduce Boyden Slatt, CEO of Ocean Cleanup, for a message to all of you.
Hello, Honolulu. My name is Boyan Slatt, and I'm the founder and CEO at the Ocean Cleanup. And I wanted to make use of this World Oceans Day to send a message to our friends at Helmsley to really thank you for your incredible and generous support, but also to explain the problem that we're trying to fix and the progress we've been able to make thanks to your support. So at the Ocean Cleanup, our mission is to rid the world's oceans of plastic. Now, plastic pollution really is one of the largest threats our oceans face today, and not just in terms of the environmental effects of dozens of ecosystems and potentially hundreds of species being threatened with extinction because of this, but also the human cost of it, where plastic enters the food chain, thereby potentially affecting the 3 billion people around the world that rely on seafood as their primary source of protein. Now, to solve this problem, we need to do two things. We need to prevent more plastic from going into the ocean in the first place, but that doesn't do anything to the legacy pollution, the 60 years of plastic that has already been emitted and doesn't go away by itself. Now, that legacy pollution accumulates in 5 areas on Earth, and the largest one is the so-called Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is roughly halfway between Hawaii and California, where about 100,000 tons, so 250 million pounds of plastic is accumulated. This is an area twice the size of Texas. Not only is it affecting the offshore environment, but occasionally a small fraction of that plastic also washes up on the Hawaiian shoreline, impacting the marine monument to the north, but also the populated islands, where it also has an impact on the people and the tourism of those islands. So it should be pretty obvious that we need to clean up the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, but it's easier said than done. Of course, this area is massive, it's an inhospitable environment, and on top of that, this plastic is constantly moving around. So to do this, we've developed a system that is really comprised out of 1 part hardware and 1 part software. So on the hardware side, we have a very long U-shaped floating barrier that we drag forth with 2 ships, slowly enough so that marine life can safely escape. And on top of that, we have the software, which is really the intelligence that we use to guide the system through the ocean in its most optimal course. And the support of the Helmsley Charitable Trust really came for us at a crucial moment, because 2023 has been the year that we transitioned from System 2, which was our prototype system, half a mile long, to System 3, 1.5 miles in length, which is the world's first full-scale ocean cleanup system. So dramatically increasing our catches up to almost 50 tons in a single trip by the end of the year. And on top of that, we've been able to innovate countless other things, including what we call the mesh, the marine animal safety hatch, through which we have a way to now actively expel any marine life that is not supposed to enter the cleanup system. And the result of all of this has been that we are now cleaning, as we speak, an area the size of a football field every 5 seconds. But it's good to emphasize that we're not done learning yet. Even though we've made tremendous advancements, we believe we can still improve when it comes to reliability and uptime of the system. And then there's also the software side, where we see tremendous opportunity still to boost our performance of our system and thereby reduce the overall cost of returning the North Pacific Ocean to its original state. So through the work that's currently ongoing by our crews that are at sea at this very moment, as well as our engineers here in the office, we aim to get to a point later this year that we believe our technology is good enough to start the scale-up. Now, scaling up is going to be a monumental challenge, and it's going to require a lot of help from individuals, from foundations, from companies and governments all around the world to make that happen. But we're particularly grateful for the Helmsley Charitable Trust for being such an early mover in this and helping us through this challenging developmental phase, enabling us to unlock the scale-up, and with that, make the largest cleanup in history a reality. So thank you.
What a great introduction to the ocean cleanup. Thank you, Boyan, for that. We are excited to be supporting Boyan and his entire team in their effort to rid the world's oceans of plastic pollution. Today we have with us several experts who have been in this world of removing plastic from our oceans, and I'm going to introduce you to all of them. And I think when you hear from them, you will agree that they have the coolest jobs in the world. So to my left, we have Kevin O'Brien, founder and president of the Papahanaumokuakea Marine Debris Project, a nonprofit organization focused on cleaning up plastic pollution from the Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument, otherwise known as the Northwestern Hawaiian Islands. These remote and uninhabited atolls and reefs stretch for 1,300 miles beyond the main Hawaiian Islands and hold a diverse array of protected wildlife. And just last month, Kevin and his team completed a 19-day mission to Kauai Helani, the Midway Atoll. And there they removed 70,000 pounds of marine debris. Before forming the Papahanaumokuakea Marine Debris Project in 2019, Kevin spent 12 years with the NOAA Pacific Islands Fisheries Science Center in Honolulu, conducting marine research missions throughout the U.S. Pacific territories. This work included executing large-scale marine debris removal missions, and that is how this became his passion project. Kevin is also a sailor and has voyaged all around the Pacific. Thank you for being here, Kevin.
Thank you for having me.
Next to Kevin, we have Fede Popink. Fede is a project engineer senior with the Ocean Cleanup in the Netherlands and is here in Honolulu, fresh off the ocean's 100th extraction mission to the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which I recently watched via live stream. Fede graduated as a space system engineer from the Delft University of Technology. He then worked in the oil and gas industries for the next 7 years, learning about ocean forces and pragmatism in design while working on heavy lift cranes and pipe lay equipment. During his travels around the world, Fede saw both the most beautiful nature and the worst of deforestation, industrialization, and pollution. This is what led him to jump on the opportunity to join the Ocean Cleanup about 7 years ago. As an engineer and designer, Fede has been involved in the full design cycle of several cleanup systems at the Ocean Cleanup, from brainstorming and concepting to operations in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It's great to have you with us, Fede.
Pleasure to be here.
And next up to my right, we have Raphael Bergstrom, Executive Director of Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii. Raphael has been leading work for healthy coastlines, activating community cleanup efforts, and educating and inspiring people to take action on plastic pollution and waste management. Raphael is a graduate of University of Hawaii's Natural Resources and Environmental Management Masters of Science program, and previously was the Oahu chapter coordinator of Surfrider Foundation. He has also served as a team leader for the Hawaiian Youth Conservation Corps. He founded the civic engagement workshop, Civics is Sexy, and served on multiple plastic waste reduction committees at the state and county level. These collective experiences inspire his love for Hawaii, its people, and its natural beauty. Welcome, Raphael.
Thank you so much.
To kick off the conversation, I would like to begin with you, Walter. Walter, as a traditional health funder, why did you decide to fund an organization that fights marine plastic pollution?
Absolutely. Well, at the Helmsley Charitable Trust, we are so embedded in health. And when we look at the research that's going on, we learned that so much of plastic waste and wastes in the ocean cause major health problems. And that's one of the main reasons why we funded this, because this scientific research has shown that this was a problem and shown there's major consequences of microplastics entering the human body. And we have to do something about this as a society, because as these plastics continue to break down, they're going to enter the food chain more and more, and will continue to enter the body because we eat the fish coming out of the ocean, the fish eat the plastic. It's an ongoing thing. And there's organizations like Ocean Cleanup that are doing innovative things to get these plastics out of there. We have one shot to take care of our ocean, to take care of our environment. And it's not just for us, but it's for our children and our children's children.
Earlier, we heard from Boyan about the work that the Ocean Cleanup does, and that you are actually there doing the work. And I wonder if you can tell us what it's like to be on these missions and what it's like to be, in the middle of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch.
Yes, of course. Yeah, as you said, we sail out with 2 vessels to the middle of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It's a 5-day sail, so you're sailing as far away from civilization as is possible on this globe, and you're surrounded by waves, blue skies, beautiful clouds, rainbows, the most beautiful sunsets, and there's dolphins swimming in the bow wave. It's absolutely beautiful. And then you start looking over the railing of your vessel and you're like, hey, there's a bucket floating by, or a bottle of shampoo, or flip-flops, refrigerators, car tires, car fenders. You start looking down in the water and you see all this plastic so far away from civilization, and it's mind-blowing. So we are all the way out there with 2 vessels that are towing this System 3, which is basically an ocean broom of about a mile wide. And it has this typical U shape that collects all the plastic that we encounter in the middle, and it all flows into the retention zone, which is a kind of a garbage bag. We sail very slowly, so marine life can just swim in and out. We have several deterrents to prevent any animals from interacting with the system. And as a last line of defense, if we encounter a very stubborn animal, we have the marine animal safety hatch, so we can always push a button that closes off the garbage bag and only leaves a very big exit for the marine animal. And then every 4 to 6 days, we collect anywhere between 8 and 14 tons of plastics that we then pull onto the deck. And during our 7-week missions, we try to collect as much plastics as possible. We are currently operating 1 system. This system is consistently harvesting plastics. We know we can do better in some fields, so we're trying to optimize the system. And once we have optimized it enough, we want to scale up and increase our cleanup mission to several systems to have a bigger impact. And well, this wonderful donation from the Helmsley Trust will help us during this critical phase of optimization and expanding the scale up of our mission. So, thank you so much.
That was so insightful. Raphael, for those of us who don't live in Hawaii or near a beach, can you tell us about what's washing up on our shores every day and why this matters?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our mission at Sustainable Coastlines is inspiring communities to care for coastlines. And before I talk about just the coastlines here in Hawaii, we also like to talk about the fact that everybody has a coastline. The oceans around us surround this entire world. And whether you live in Kansas or the Netherlands or Hawaii, we have a direct connection to the coastlines. And that's actually the point of what I'm going to talk about, is how it looks in Hawaii when we do our beach cleanups here. On the east sides of our island, the windward shores of Hawaii, we see the world's plastic. From the tiniest pieces of micro and mesoplastics to the largest pieces of industrial fishing industry and ghost nets. And that is scattered across what everybody thinks of in Hawaii as these beautiful, pristine beaches of paradise. But in reality, if you set foot on a windward beach in Hawaii, you're going to be stepping on plastic in some way or the other. The microplastics are radiating through the sand column as well. And that's just on our windward side. But we also have where the problem exists in our daily lives in Hawaii too. So our streams, our streets are also covered in the single-use plastics of daily life that we have here in Hawaii and across the world. And so our efforts actually start both on the beaches, but then we're also working in our communities where we're trying to make those connections that what we do, Mauka, or the mountain side of the island, is connected to Makai, the ocean side of the island. So we have to clean up everything in between too. So really, we get to see in Hawaii the problems both that we're creating ourselves and that everybody is creating, but also what the world is creating.
Thank you for that. And from one Hawaii island, I'd love to go to your work in some of the northwestern islands. So you work in the remote islands in the northern Hawaiian Islands, also called the Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument. Kevin, what are your cleanup efforts like there?
Well, they're a little bit different than your standard beach cleanup in the sense that these islands are very far away. They're up to 1,300 miles from where we sit right now. Very remote, very hard to get to, and so we have to take a ship there, much in the same way that the ocean cleanup needs to take a vessel to get there. We put together a big team of divers and head up there for a month at a time, and we deal with primarily the ghost nets that accumulate on the coral reefs. And so we're finding a huge problem with ghost nets smothering living coral reefs. And so our divers take care of those issues as well as cleaning up the plastics from the shorelines of these uninhabited islands. And so I think the perspective that our work can offer to the larger issue really is that, you might walk down the beach here in Honolulu or in LA or wherever you might live and see a piece of plastic, but you don't necessarily see that piece of plastic interacting with an endangered animal, for instance. And where we work, it's one of the world's last intact ecosystems. And so it's like stepping back in time. You can walk down the beach and have a seabird land on your head because it may have never seen a human, or have fish swimming around your ankles because they've never seen a fish hook, that kind of thing. And so on a daily basis, almost on an hourly basis, we see these plastics interacting with these critically endangered animals and wildlife in these habitats. And so just connecting the dots there between the plastics that we know are in the ocean and some of these really terrible impacts that they're having.
So picking up from Kevin's point, I'd love to hear from everyone on what implications you see for plastic pollution in our oceans on the rest of the world, whether that's right here in Hawaii, somewhere else around the world. It's free for all. Anybody can jump in.
Well, I mean, in Hawaii, to pick up on what Kevin is talking about, whether we're in Papahanaumokuakea in the most remote areas of Hawaii or right here in the main Hawaiian Islands on Oahu, plastics are interacting with both people and wildlife, and endangered species exist across the Hawaiian Islands. We are the endangered species capital of the world. Whether it's a monk seal sitting on a beach, the fish that are going to our plates, all of that is happening right here in Hawaii. And it's also affecting the people. I mean, we look out and we have visitors coming to this island to see a beautiful, pristine beach. And when it's covered in plastic, we have to find a way to interject ourselves into where are the solutions for how do we stop this. Yes, we can pick it up for all of our lives, but we actually have to look at, for the benefits of the health of humans, for the benefit of the ecosystems, how do we actually stop this from happening in the future? And we can talk more about that as we keep going.
We have also seen nations suing other nations, saying your rivers emit plastics that wind up on our beaches. That costs us tourism income. So there's also the impact on tourism.
Yeah, and I think too, like where you work in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch and here in Hawaii, this is some of the, like you said, the most remote areas in the world. And so if there ever were a place that shouldn't suffer from these impacts of plastic pollution, it should be Hawaii, the middle of the Pacific Ocean, or certainly the remote islands of Papahanaumokuakea. But yet here we have ourselves a tremendous problem of accumulation. So kind of the canary in the coal mine, I think, in terms of the scale of the global problem. And I think communicating that is really important. And we just have a window into it here in the middle of the Pacific.
So Kevin, when we talked about a couple weeks ago, I researched, presentations that you've given in the past, and I saw one that you gave in which you talked about, seeing, parent seabirds feed plastic to their young and sort of what happens to, young wildlife. Can you talk about that? Because I've been telling everybody this.
Sure. So on some of these islands that we visit, you'll see carcasses of seabird chicks laying everywhere. And once the carcass is decomposed, what you find inside is a big pile of plastic. And essentially the adults have been feeding their chicks plastic along with the food, and it fills up their stomachs, and the chicks essentially die of starvation. And so, at Kuaheilani Atoll, for instance, seabirds bring 5 tons of plastic to a tiny island that's 2 miles long every year in the form of food to their chicks. And so it's, it's a staggering problem, but, one that's not insurmountable. And I'd like to, give a message of hope, I guess, with the work that you're doing, and Raphael, you as well, and all of our organizations that are working from different angles here, I think there's a lot of hope for this issue.
Thank you.
There's a few quite iconic pictures, I think, now of a decomposing albatross
Yes.
that shows all the plastic inside,
Right.
and the picture of the seahorse holding a cotton swab.
Right.
Wow.
We just captured a photo a couple weeks ago of an Eva bird, which is a seabird, carrying a shoe in its mouth. That kind of thing happens all the time, way out to sea where no one can witness it.
And it's not restricted to the most remote parts of the Hawaiian Islands either. If you go and visit the Hawaiian Marine Mammal Response Team, they actually have the guts of whales and dolphins that are filled with plastic and that they've extracted that have washed up here on the beaches of the main Hawaiian Islands as well.
Walter, I know that you've been following some of the research around health and microplastics. Can you talk a bit about that?
Absolutely. That's a perfect transition as you talk about the microplastics in the whales and in the birds. These microplastic are also in fish and other parts of our food supply that we consume. And it's very, very dangerous. There's new scientific research coming out. One of them that I'm thinking of is just out of Harvard, not terribly long ago, where they looked at the fats from angioplasties. And they said 60% in the study of patients who have had angioplasty in their fats are microplastics. And then they further looked at the study and they said that a good percentage of that 60% had 5 times higher poor outcomes from their surgeries. So some of that, more research needs to be done, of course, but that clearly points to the dangers of microplastics in the human body. And other studies have also said that the majority of humans have microplastics in them. So we don't really know how bad it is, but this is truly the canary in the coal mine. When you talk about a study showing 60% of angioplasty fats have microplastics in it. Wow. That's something we all should be extremely concerned about on our health aspects for every human across the world.
So I think from what everyone's saying, it's very clear that microplastics, plastics in the ocean are huge problems for us with deep ramifications for the entire globe. It's a huge problem, Walter. How can we tackle a problem this large?
I want to be an optimist on this. At Helmsley Charitable Trust, we tackle hard, tough problems. And basically, this is something everybody should be concerned about, whether it's they're concerned for the animals and the environment or concerns over health. But we all need to do something about it. Everybody can make wise choices by trying to reduce the amount of plastics they utilize and switch to other alternative resources. We can do things such as making sure we recycle, dispose of our trash properly, besides financially supporting all these great organizations that are doing so much to keep plastics out of our environment, from coming into our environment. There's a ton we all can be doing. And most importantly, we need to educate. We need to educate everyone, from the children to the other adults to our lawmakers. We all need to be a voice, because this problem is too big for Helmsley. This is too big for any funding source. This is truly a global problem and a global time bomb. Because one thing we haven't mentioned is, as these plastics continue to break down in the ocean, they're falling lower and lower in the water column. And they're going to be impossible to retrieve soon. So time is of the essence. So we all need to be vocal, and we all need to demand globally to do something about this problem.
Clearly, cleaning up is just the start, and I'd love to hear from some of the panelists on what else we can be doing to prevent the problem from occurring in the first place.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. I mean, this Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii, this is truly our mission, is we do beach cleanups to bring people into the issue. And as Walter was saying, is like, it's literally on the surface if we just do the cleanups, both literally and figuratively, because 99% of the plastic that's entering the ocean is already sinking. So if we're just cleaning the surface or just the beaches, we're not going into the depth that we need to solve the problem. But there are ways to do it. And it's really, you brought up a lot of them. Like it's lifestyle changes that we all can be a part of, from the smallest individual in a community to larger policy changes. We like to advocate for, we actually do a lot of work in schools. So we're educating 10,000 students a year in classrooms, and we call it from keiki to kapuna, from the littlest kids to our elders. We wanted to be inviting for everyone. But really it can start with simple things like bring your own reusables to everything. Very simple things for the individual to do. In Hawaii, we import almost all of our food to Hawaii. It's almost all wrapped in plastic. So something that we're working on is composting and actually connecting the sustainability of food systems, like growing our own food here in Hawaii, to the reduction of plastic. Those are just some little inputs. And then you can go from there as the connections that we have to resources that we develop by being in the ocean or being in the environment help us to care more. And then we can get into the things of policy and civics, where our care then transfers on to our policymakers too.
I think it's also really important to help people to build a connection with the ocean. You know, as the old saying that you protect what you love. And if we can help people to build connections to their local beach, their local coral reef, or even their local river, which leads to the ocean, then developing a love of place and then a willingness to protect it goes right along with that. And so that can translate into making those consumer choices in your life, you know. And I think that cleaning up is a really critical element of the global problem, because from our perspective, if we stop cleanups right now, I think we're going to suffer a biodiversity crisis. I think it's going to be heavily impactful to wildlife and habitats, along with people's health, and we can't afford to do that. And so I think the work that you're doing and that we're all trying to contribute to is really an important piece of the puzzle.
There's a lot to do downstream, cleaning up the legacy plastic.
Right.
What I noticed is 7 years ago when I started this job, I had to explain what I was doing at a birthday, for example. And now 7 years later, if I tell people what I do, they start to explain the problem to me, basically. So I think by the cleanup that we all do, we highlighted the problem and we raised the awareness, and that's also it's very educational in itself, and people become much more aware, and they usually try to help where they can.
Thank you. So we're down to our final question, and I'm going to ask each of you to share a message that you would like our audience to take away. Starting with Kevin.
Well, I think that probably the easiest message here is that marine debris is everyone's problem. You know, if you live in South Dakota or if you live in the middle of Canada, your waste still eventually could make it to the ocean. And I think that's a connection that's really important to make. And pairing that with protecting what you love is just a really great way to think about the problem, I think.
Now it's your turn.
My turn. Yeah, it's a big problem, and it might seem too big to tackle, and you might think, hey, I'm just one individual and I do not even know where to start, or maybe you think like I'm not a savvy entrepreneur, or you cannot make $1 million donation, and of course those are very welcome, but every contribution helps. You can just reach out. We are here on this panel with 3-4 different initiatives already. Reach out, find out what you can do, even if it's joining a beach cleanup for just 1 day a year. I think everybody can be part of the solution.
Yeah, I mean, just to tack on to that, I would say get your hands dirty. Like Kevin was saying, is the cleanups matter still so much. There's so much plastic out there. Get your hands dirty to help yourself understand the problem that's in front of us, and take that information back into your communities. What you've learned just from hearing us talk today, bring that into the communities wherever you are, anywhere in the world, and realize that this is a problem that we all have to tackle together, but it can start with the simple changes that you can make in your life. And we like to say perfectly imperfect. We need people just doing things the best they can and making progress. And if we're all making progress together, then we're going to actually get where we need to go.
Absolutely. And once again, I would just emphasize, be an advocate, educate people. If you can give money to these organizations and other organizations like this. Just be encouraging and let everybody know what the problem is. Because in many parts of the world, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch seems so far away. And there's other garbage patches besides the Great Pacific Garbage Patch that is affecting everybody. It's this one patch, and there's a patch down in Africa that affects the entire global community. So this is truly a global problem, and it's time that we become global citizens and address it and advocate for it.
Thank you for those comments, Walter. And thank you to Kevin, Feta, and Raphael. It's been a great pleasure to hear from all of you and learn from you today about the vital work that you're doing to protect our oceans. So for me, this has been both inspiring and sobering, but I'm filled with optimism because of the people and the organizations who are dedicated to this cause. So I hope that you all feel the same as well. On behalf of the Helmsley Charitable Trust, thank you very much for joining us today.